All right, so weeks 13 and 14, you're going to be working on a site plan or a plot plan. Um, and there's three different ways of doing it in Revit. The CAD learning videos showed two different ways. One, you bring in a points file, which is survey data, and then Revit builds the contours and the topo surface from that. The other is to bring in a 3D drawing of survey data, which would be created in a program like Civil 3D, and you can bring the surface already in and then create it from that. There are some add-ins available, some aftermarket add-ins that you can add to Revit that will uh, do more things like Civil 3D does, but I tried one last semester and it didn't do a good enough job to make it worth the while of adding it in. Plus, it made every time I went to close down a Revit uh, file, it would crash the program. So I had to uninstall the whole thing, start over with it. I didn't like it after that. Anyway, we're going to do a third method, which is if you're dealing with residential um, plans, this is probably what you're going to end up getting is a two-dimensional CAD file, or you may just get a PDF of the property lines, some contour lines and roads and streets and things like that. And if you get a PDF, you can bring it into AutoCAD and scale it up to make it life size, and then trace over it to get your contour lines and property lines and things like that. So this is the AutoCAD file that I'm giving you. There's a lot of other layers in here that it's an older file that I used to use uh, back when I was teaching high school, but there's some layers in there that I can't get rid of because I don't know why. But anyway, the data that we've got here is what we want. Okay, so I just wanted to show that to you. You can open it and look at it if you want to. That's fine, not a problem. In Revit, I'll go ahead and show you what we're going to do. This is what you're going to create, and it's very similar to one in the textbook. Just the sizes and the dimensions and things are a little bit different, but it's very similar to one in the textbook. So this is it, and we're going to import in our drawing, our CAD drawing, and then we're going to trace it to create the topo surface. And I'll go ahead and pop to a front view, and you can see there's our slope of our land and our topo. Okay, so what are you going to do? Um, we're going to start a new project, okay? And we can make some changes here on project units. You're going to change the length to be decimal feet, 2 decimal places, and suppress trailing zeros. All right, so that's to start with, and it's just the length that we're changing. Okay, and you're going to create a new level, and I called it CAD import. And let me go to an elevation view here, and I'll show you. You can draw it in closer down here. I renamed it CAD import. That's where I'm going to put my CAD file when I bring it in. And I set it at 150 feet above level 1. And the reason for that is you want to be able to see your CAD drawing as you're creating your topo surface. So you want it to be up above the topo surface, and our topography runs from 100 feet to 109 feet. Okay, so you're going to create a new level. All right, on that level, here we go. You're going to edit your properties. We're going to edit the view range. And for our bottom and our view depth, we want to set those to unlimited. That way you can see down. If you're on this level, you can see down to your site plan. Okay, so you're going to change those. And then on your site level, we're going to edit the view range for it. And if you look at it, it can go above level 1, 200 feet, 200 feet, and bottom unlimited. This makes it so that we can see our CAD drawing above and we can see everything down below if we need to. So those are some of the changes that we need to make. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go to our CAD import level and we're going to go insert, import CAD, and excuse me, going to choose a plot plan. And I put a graphic of this up in Blackboard for you to import. We're going to place it at the CAD import level. That Yeah, that may be different than what I had on the image. I'll have to check that and see. I may change that. But we're going to go manual center, okay? And we're just going to preserve colors. We'll do all layers. That's fine. You can select which layers you want if you don't want all of them, but I'm just going to leave it simple and say all layers. And we're going to go open. And I'm going to just kind of center it up in my space and just pop it right there. Okay. Now we go to our site plan level. And let's see. You're going to do start putting in contour lines using points. And I'm not going to do all of them. I will do some to show you how it's done. And then show you a couple other things. Okay, so we'll go massing and site. We'll go topo surface, and we're going to place point. And so let's start at 100 feet. And when you've done that, okay, your zoom wheel won't work. So I'll press my mouse and move it. Now I can zoom in. And we're just placing points. So I'm going to go there. And if you follow along that line, it'll snap to the endpoints of the CAD drawing. Okay. And if we were to stop now and look at it in 3D, we could see that it's just got a line. It hasn't really created much of anything yet. Um, Down here at the lower end, we don't have to do every line, so let's skip to the 103. And you can see it's getting pretty close to creating what was in the CAD file. That's why I said down here at the lower end of the property, it's not that critical that we kind of follow along with it. You can if you want to. And I'm going to go a little bit to the outside of my property line down here. Okay. Now I'm getting some variation over here, so I think I want to. I'll go ahead and go to 105. Okay, and I'm gonna stop there, mainly so that I can show you what's happened so far. Okay, so here's my site that it's creating at 100 feet elevation up to the 105, and so it's creating that. Now, if you need to edit, if you stop and you need to edit, you can't just go back to here and go topo surface again, because then you're creating a second topo surface. You have to go back to your original topo surface and edit it. Now you can start placing more points, okay? uh, you're really gonna want to trace the rest of these full every line. And I don't know, it's gonna get a little kind of tricky up in here. You're going to have to add a couple of more 109 points, okay? Or else it's going to want to cut a contour in between them here. So you're going to want to add another one in here, and then probably one over here across the street. When you're doing these lines here, we want to go ahead and start coming out a little further so that we're across the street. And so your 107, pull it out. Your 108, pull them out, so that we've got some topo surface to put our street on. Okay. And I'll show you here if you look. Okay, so I pulled those points a little bit further outside. Okay. Just so I got some topo surface so I can put a street in. All right. Let me look at my notes. All right, and then we want to do property lines. Okay, and you can, if we, come on, there, I want to select my CAD. That selected my CAD import right there. And I can do some deletes. I can do queries. I can explode it. The query just like, you can click on something and see what it is, but I could explode it. I could delete some layers. Okay. If you could hear that, they're working in the bathrooms next door. Sorry. Okay, property lines. I'm going to do by sketching, and you can do pick lines for most of these. So I'm going to pick my property lines. That didn't connect all the way around for some reason. That's okay. And now we'll go with our trusty fillet command. Did that corner? Okay, so that worked good. Or you could draw the lines. That's fine too. Okay. Now then, because it's getting a little confusing, I'm going to turn off the visibility of my, I'm going to hide my CAD import. So that now I've got my topo surface, my property lines. And we want to tag these things. So with the label contours, that one works. You select it and then you drag a line across your contour lines, and it will put the numbers in for you. And I'll show you on my finished one. You're going to want to do kind of up this northern side of the property, and then you have to come down here and do another one to get that 109 contour line. But don't freak out. It does this. It puts the numbers reading from downhill going uphill. So once you get up to these two up here, the 107, 108, those numbers will be read from the eastern side because that's going uphill. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to tag the property lines. And when you do that, it's going to tell you there's no property line tag loaded. So yes, I want to load one. It's in annotations, civil property line tag. And you'll go around tagging the property line, not the edge of your topo surface. Okay. And I want that one outside. And so we're going to tag those, and you can slide those around. Okay. All right. So let's turn our back on. You're going to, after you get your topo surface in, we want to change some colors. And if you select your topo surface, you come over here and change the color for it, or you can change it while you're creating it. Okay, grass, you'll have to load grass. So if you do a search up here, it'll show up down here in your AEC. It'll show up down here. And so you pop it up here. And I changed the color over here. I just picked a green. It doesn't have to be actual grass. This is just for shading, because in the render appearance, there's lots of different types of grass that you can choose and load. Okay, but for graphics, we want to just be able to see green in our shading. Okay, so we want to change that. And then we're going to do two different things. We're going to do a split surface to create the road. And so you'll choose the your topo surface, and then you can do pick lines would be fine. And you're going to pick the road lines, okay, to do that with. And I can't do it again because I've already done it once, but let me. And what I did, I extended it out to the end up here of my topo surface, but not down here at the bottom. I just canceled it off, because if you go all the way to the end, you can't totally split the topo surface into two separate beings by doing this. And one of our reasons for, there's two different ways to do this. We can do a split surface like this, or we can do a subregion. And so for the street, let's do a split surface. And we're going to load a material asphalt paving, and that's down in the extra stuff. And then you'll change. You may have to change the color of it a little bit. I don't remember. For the driveway, the site concrete, we're going to do a subregion, because that keeps it as part of this topo, and so the contours would change automatically with it. So we do subregion, and you have to select that particular surface that you're going to work on. And then you can pick lines for that, and we'll create that subregion. Material type, excuse me, I chose concrete broom finish, and I made it a little bit lighter gray just so it would show up okay. Appearance is not that big of a deal because it has a texture to it, but I made it a little bit lighter than the other. Okay, all right. On your, I'm going to close those two down so I'm not getting confused with this. This is my finished product here. Come on. On the site level, you want to put in a north arrow. And so you can go annotate, you can go symbol, and you're going to need to load the north arrow 1 family. And that is under annotations, general, and you just kind of scroll down, because north arrow 2 is one that's in there, and it's just a plus sign. Boom. So you're going to load north arrow 1, and you just drop it in place right there. Okay. And at your corners, we want to mark elevation markers for the corners of the property line. And that is done with a spot elevation right here. And then you want to just hover in as close as you can to that point. I'm not sure why that is showing up as 150. That is weird. That's kind of weird. I don't know why that did that. Okay, but I'm adding them at all 5 corners of the property line. Okay. See, this one's like 107.81. And the difference being between what we had in AutoCAD and what we had in Revit is the way it created the topo surface. You can change that if it becomes an issue for you. And then we want to add some plantings. We want to add some trees. Choose a couple of different varieties of deciduous trees and throw in an evergreen tree up here. I did a can't remember what I did a sub-region down here and added in as water, and in the water I changed the color here just to give me something blue and shaded, and under appearance, under type, ocean is the default, so we can change it to generic pond or lake. You can play with the colors, okay. You can play with the wave heights, okay, and different things. There's all kinds of things you can do, and that's just for rendering. All right, graphics we're fine with just a shady blue there. Okay, and that would be the week 13 stuff. Week 14, we're actually going to put our a house on it and then get it rotated around for the house. All right. Now, one thing I have not done yet that I would want you to do is go ahead and create a drawing sheet and then put your drawing on it. And I'll play with that and put the details as far as the scale for what we want to do. I'll put that in Blackboard. If you got questions, shoot me an email or come by the lab.